Hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Polly didn't flush. Ooh, I smell cookies. I smell an A+. How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine.
Our local news page, our top story comes from Chandra Fleming at the Detroit Free Press, as much of lower Michigan, including our local area, is currently under a winter storm warning, expecting a mixture of rain and snow throughout the afternoon and evening and well into Saturday morning in the wee parts of the weekend. In addition, the National Weather Service is expecting high winds upwards of 45 miles per hour, so power outages are also to be expected. For the Oakland County and Metro Detroit areas, current projections are forecast between 5 and 8 inches of snow beginning around 12 noon today, with heavy snowfall expected in the late afternoon right around the time of rush hour. Especially this is going to be the case if you are looking to travel north of the I-69 corridor today or plan to do so this weekend. You may want to consider changing your travel plans and either stay home or travel earlier in the day before the storm reaches its most aggressive point. As north of I-69, they are expecting within ranges of anywhere from 8 to 10 inches of snow, and that heavy snowfall going to be that much more aggressive than it is right here in Oakland County, where we're expecting 5 to 8 inches of snow as of now. As for the snow totals, that is all dependent on the rain that will come before that. So we're going to start off today with some rain in our local area. We are projected to be in the area of this storm that's going to get quite a lot of rain earlier on in this storm, and then at some point it will transition to snow, so the roads will then become a lot slushier than they are on very clear roads this morning. That will not be the case as we get closer to the middle part of the day and get toward 12 noon, and certainly as we get later on into the afternoon. Those areas with more rain will have considerably less snow per the National Weather Service, but the pattern of the storm can still vary between now and this afternoon when it's expected to be at its most treacherous. So what was 4 to 6 inches in the projections late on Thursday, and is now 5 to 8 inches, could easily become 6 to 10 inches if some circumstances change. So in addition to all of this, we're expecting high winds with gusts upwards of 45 miles per hour. The storm, there are pockets of the storm. This was a great point I saw be made by Fox 2 News meteorologist Derek Kevra this morning on WJBK TV out of Detroit. He made a great observation that part of this storm, there is a little bit of a pocket where there is no moisture. There's no rain, there's no snow in that particular pocket. And if that particular pocket has some dry air, that could cause some of these additional high winds and a certain system within this system that could be even more apt for power outages. But overall in this storm, expect to have a whole lot of rain and a whole lot of snow. It's going to be heavy snowfall in the late afternoon, around 5 to 6 p.m. in that area through about 8 o'clock tonight is, at my last check on our hourly forecast, was where we were expecting to be seeing heavy snowfall in our local area, particularly in the area where we begin our broadcast, we originate our broadcast in West Bloomfield, but that's going to really be quite evident of the entire Oakland County area. So expect the roads to be even more treacherous the closer we get to about 6 o'clock this afternoon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock rock this afternoon. It's going to be much tougher to make your way home, make your way from point A to point Z. So if you don't have to travel today, once again, the National Weather Service urging motorists to stay off the road unless it's absolutely necessary, especially as the storm progresses throughout the afternoon and into the evening. The roads are going to be slippery from the rain. They're going to be slippery certainly from the slush that comes from the rain and the heavy snowfall conditions. And then on top of that, we have these high winds that will affect your driving. It'll affect the way that the snow falls. It will certainly have an impact on power lines, on limbs from trees, on down trees and or limbs, which can also have an impact on your power. And so once again, power outages are expected to occur this evening and into the night, and could go into Saturday as well as a result of this storm. We're expecting heavy snowfall. The snow is expected to pack pretty well. That all lands on the power lines, puts a lot of pressure on those lines. They dip, sometimes they short out and are in need of repair, or same thing happens to a tree branch. It gets enough of that pressure on it, gets weighed down too much, it can't handle it, it breaks and it falls on a power line, that could, or worse, on a transformer. That could knock out your power temporarily, it could knock out your power significantly, and it could cause other hazards as well. So it's a really important time for you to be careful out on our roads, be careful at home as well, and be ready with an emergency plan. Be ready to go without power, be ready to be in your home in cooler weather. You may not be able to cook food. You may have food that has been prepared, some leftovers in your refrigerator. You might want to get some ice, put it in a cooler, put that out in your garage area or out on your patio if you're in an apartment, or something along those lines, in a cooler with some ice to try to preserve that food as much as possible. There's no guarantee that these winds are going to knock out your power, but 45 miles per hour gusts, along with blowing snow, along with heavy snowfall at parts of the afternoon and into the evening, that is quite the combination that could cause some power outages and maybe even some prolonged power outages. As even just this morning, we finally had some good news that about 99.9% of those who lost power last week during the ice storm and Winter Storm Olive had their power restored by DTE Energy. I feel for those people that may end up right back in that situation just less than a day later in some of their cases, and could lose power tonight. All of this information and more helpful info as well is on our ICE page, civiccentertv.com/ice. We set that up for the ice storm information last week. We continue to modify that page at civiccentertv.com/ice, including the latest update from the National Weather Service on their winter storm warning. That came in at 4:22 a.m. on this Friday, March 3rd, 2023. It includes the following counties: St. Clair, Livingston, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw, Wayne, Lenawee, and Monroe. And it will affect all these, but not just these cities: Port Huron, Howell, Pontiac, Warren, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Adrian, and Monroe. Winter storm warning is in effect from 1 p.m. this afternoon until 4 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. That, of course, could be subject to change if the storm moves along slower after it hits landfall in Michigan. Maybe could happen, probably won't, but that could change. As of now, 1 p.m. when we're starting to see a lot of that rain turn into a mixture of rain and snow, and that slush will start to accumulate on our roads and on the shoulders and whatnot. That's expected around the 1 o'clock period. Things are going to get really treacherous around 5 o'clock and moving into the middle part of the evening around 8 o'clock. And that's thus why this warning goes into effect today at 1 p.m. and will continue until 4 a.m. on Saturday as the storm will progress throughout the night tonight. What you can expect: heavy, wet snow, accumulations of 6 to 10 inches in some areas. Of course, as we mentioned earlier in the article from Chandra Fleming on our local news page on civiccentertv.com, that's going to depend on how much rain you get in your particular area, how quickly that falls down, how quickly then it transitions from that to snow, and how those mix together. Drainage may also play a factor in that, and your location. South of I-69, we're currently in the range of 5 to 8 inches of snow, but north of I-69, that's where they're seeing what's in this warning that is posted on our website on civiccentertv.com/ice. 6 to 10 inches, particularly north of I-69. Wind gusts will range from 35 to 45 miles per hour. That is going to happen in St. Clair, Livingston, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw, Wayne, Lenawee, and Monroe counties. If you're following along with us on our TV broadcasts or our web streams today on Facebook as well as on civiccentertv.com, you're seeing this on your page right now. You can also follow along with us on civiccentertv.com/ice as you watch and listen in another tab. But also, on top of that, if you're on the roads and you're getting into work at this time, or you're already at work and you're just looking for more information, civiccentertv.com/ice. Again, this storm, 1 p.m. this afternoon, expected to run through 4 a.m. on Saturday. That's at least where the National Weather Service's office for Pontiac and Detroit out of White Lake is reporting at this time. Travel will be very difficult. The hazardous conditions could impact your evening commute. In addition, very heavy snow rates on the order of 1 to 2+ inches per hour are likely over a short 3 to 6 hour window. And that's really in that pocket as of now, right around what rush hour? Somewhere in the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock range until 8, 9 o'clock at night. We're going to see heavy snowfall going back down to some moderate snowfall, but it's going to have a big impact. The peak rates occur this afternoon into this evening, followed by moderate snow after midnight. Again, wind gusts 45 miles per hour could result in rapid reductions in visibility and isolated power outages as well. They're suggesting if you must travel, you should keep an extra flashlight, some food, some water with you in your vehicle in case of emergency. These are going to be critical and again, non-perishable. You want to have water want to have some water bottles, want to have flashlights. I would suggest with a flashlight, extra batteries in case you are in your vehicle for a prolonged period before emergency services or somebody else is able to provide you with assistance. Food should also be non-perishable so that it will last you a while. If you are in your vehicle, you probably don't want to have probably don't want to pack an extra sack lunch with you and just leave it in your car or leave it on your person and bring with you on your drive home. That could go bad if you're out there for a prolonged period of time. Something non-perishable, something easy that you can have with you in your car. I'd suggest today put together a little go bag, and if in doubt, have that with you in case of emergency, and you'll be in a much better spot. Also, we have some diagrams from the National Weather Service that are on our website on civiccentertv.com/ice. We will update those as we go throughout the day. Those were last updated early on this morning today, as late as 5:49 a.m. I'm sure they will update these again here within the time that we're on the air, and certainly within the time shortly after we get off the air. We will monitor this page throughout the day to give you updated information. You also have links on that page about what to do if you see a downed power line on your property, or if you encounter it on another, if you encounter a downed line on the road. What should you do to keep yourself safe? Do not approach a downed power line. Even if you're not seeing sparks from that line, you should always assume that a downed power line is active. And if you make contact with that power line with your car, 100%. Stay in your vehicle and call emergency services and let them know that you've made contact. Those rubber wheels can protect you from the electrical shock, but if you leave your vehicle, if you touch the ground, you're grounding yourself now and you could get electrocuted. Always call 911 in case of an emergency. Also, generator safety information. Never run your generator inside of your home, or don't run it too close to your home. Give it a good distance from your home, because if you're getting those fumes that it is exhausting into your home, even just into your garage, it is exhausting carbon monoxide. That is toxic. That is very dangerous. Also a good time to check your batteries and your carbon monoxide alarm if you are running a generator and it is relatively close to an area that may have an open window or some case in your home. Also, there's a link to the National Weather Service link, so you can check on these updates yourself even more throughout the afternoon, maybe in between pockets of when we're able to update our page on civiccentertv.com/ice. You can also sign up for alerts from DTE Energy related to power outages and see both their power outage map and the consumer's energy power outage map too. So no matter which one of those utility umbrellas you fall under, you're going to be able to keep yourself updated on power outages and report them too. It's important. And if you do experience a power outage in your area, at your home, at your office, that you report that to the utility, whether it be DTE Energy or Consumers Energy, because then they'll have a better idea of where these power outages are accumulating, where these power outages are more isolated. And as they're putting all this information together, they'll have a better way of planning how to do repairs on the power system to restore everyone's power as swiftly as possible. And we know every little detail makes a difference, even in situations like we had last week where many people were out of power for well over a week. That is all critical information that these utilities need to know in order to provide you with the power you need as swiftly as possible. You can also sign up for alerts from this system called Nixle. It will give you emergency updates from your local police and fire and other emergency services departments. I'm signed up for them here in West Bloomfield. I'm signed up for them over in Western Oakland County in my home area. All you gotta do is simply text your zip code to 888-777. Again, text your zip code to 888-777 to sign up for emergency services updates from Nixle, which will give you updates from the police department, from your local fire department, from other emergency services. You can customize them too, so you're getting certain alerts but not others, and constantly getting text messages. And again, even though the service itself is free, your standard text messaging rates may apply. And lastly, we have helpful information, just a list of different items and different things and different steps that you can take in case of a power outage and during an extended power outage. And all this information, this great resource, is on our website at civiccentertv.com/ice, civiccentertv.com/ice, and you can read the article about the storm, get a little more information from our friends at the Detroit Free Press, and Chandra Fleming, the author of this article, on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Also making headlines today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com from Charles E. Ramirez at the Detroit News. $5 million in federal funding is coming to Oakland County in order to help improve services for senior centers in the local area, boosting the quality of facilities as well as the services that they can provide. These grants will range from $25,000 all the way up to $250,000 out of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds that were given to the county. What this means is expanded and improved nutrition programs, kitchens, better facilities for activities, including the fun and often controversial game of pickleball that's sweeping the senior community and so many others here in Oakland County and around the country. Also going into these upgrades include safety and security updates as well to make these facilities safer for these individuals and for the emergency services, give them a better opportune way to get to individuals at these senior centers and other senior facilities in case of an emergency. Senior centers and similar facilities throughout the Oakland County area have expressed their appreciation for this funding and the upgrades that they will provide. And for a lot of these senior centers are not just great places to recreate and socialize and meet different people. These are services that they need. They need access to quality recreation that they can do at their own pace and without, maybe the intimidation of going to a gym and being around so many other people that are maybe a little bit more able-bodied at their age than maybe you are, or able to move around differently, and it's loud and there are a lot of situations that seniors just need that socialization with their own peers, and it can really help with their cognitive activity, certainly their physical activity, and the prolonging of the quality of their life. And these are not, some of these services are not just elective services either. They're critical services that are being provided by these senior centers, by other senior resources on the local level. So really great news that this $5 million in federal grants from the American Rescue Plan Act will be going toward grants for these individual senior centers all throughout Oakland County. That was a really nice announcement that was made earlier this week at Madison Heights City Hall by Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. Finally, making headlines on our local news page today at civiccentertv.com from, again, Charles E. Ramirez, as well as his good friend Carol Thompson at the Detroit News. Due to the harsh weather of the last week and the oncoming harsh weather today, Michigan State University has begun removing materials from the memorial at the iconic Sparty statue, which has become a landing spot for a plethora of flowers, stuffed animals, signs, and other mementos intended to pay tribute to Ariel Anderson, Alexandra Werner, and Brian Frazier, the 3 students killed on Monday, February 13th in the mass shooting in the northern part of the Michigan State University campus, in which 4 other students remain in the hospital and 5 total students were killed. Were also killed in the shooting at Michigan State University. All of that happened just a little over now 3 weeks ago. At MSU, it happened at Berkey Hall, and it happened at the MSU Union. And now these flowers that have been laid there in order to pay tribute to these students are going to start to be collected at Michigan State University. I haven't seen any word yet on whether or not they will be collected from the MSU Rock. In this case, but they may also be collected there. There is a canopy over the MSU Rock, so it may be different than this. But in this case, the students that were killed at Michigan State University on Monday, February 13th, they are going to have these tributes at the Sparty statue removed. MSU spokesperson Dan Olson said, quote, "We have invited students, faculty, and staff to join in the collection process if they would like," and closed quote. And the university plans to collect the flowers that were left there. So many flowers, probably the majority of what's been left at these memorials has been flowers. They're going to be collected and used to be turned into compost, actually, to help use in the planting of a tree that the university plans to plant on campus to serve as a memorial for these three fallen students. Again, Ariel Anderson, Alexandra Werner, and Brian Frazier, all going to be tributed by the university in a number of different ways. Additionally, the signs and mementos that were laid at the memorial by students, staff, faculty, alums, and the greater community will also be collected, and some of them may be preserved and recorded by the MSU Archives and Museum. Said MSU Surplus Store Operations Coordinator Chris Hewitt, who is one of the people organizing the volunteer-led cleanup at the Sparty statue of this memorial, quote, "You read a lot about shootings on campus, but you don't think about the whole having to clean up process. It's literally our job to clean up campus, and this was something that was going to happen, and it is, I think, the right time with the storm coming," and closed quote. Just a tough situation at Michigan State University, as of course you want to pay tribute to these individuals, not just the 3 that were killed and the 5 that were hospitalized, but to the community as well, and so many other people beyond those 8 that were injured and that were killed, but their families, their extended families, the university community, their friends, so many people affected by this tragedy at Michigan State University, and there's never a good time to remove a memorial of this kind. Certainly, we've seen that in our local area at Oxford High School, where there was a lot of controversy that did surround whether or not to remove the memorials at the Oxford High School sign at their entrance, and when those would be properly handled, or how that would be properly handled here. And then at Michigan State University, a similar struggle, but it's really great to see that volunteer aspect. They are inviting the students, they're inviting the community, just like they did to help each other get through this tragedy in the immediate aftermath, to be there to help, not just in paying tribute to these individuals that were so horribly harmed by the shooter on February 13th, but also to be part of returning campus to where it was before, at least visually, where it was before the shooting as well. That had to be a community effort, and I love what Michigan State is doing in this situation. All the headlines today making news on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. In addition, we have links to public health updates from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. Also, plenty of winter storm updates. We're expecting 5 to 8 inches of snow, high winds 35 to 45 miles per hour, beginning about 1 o'clock this afternoon, about the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock area of this afternoon, and that will run all the way through 4 a.m. on Saturday. Get continued updates on civiccentertv.com/ice. We have a great show ahead on this edition of the Megacast. Stay tuned. Up next, we'll have our weekly market talk with Oakland University's Michael Greiner. That's next on the Megacast.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program on our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Find all of our full shows and individual segments on demand and learn more about all the great community television and radio stations in the Oakland County area serving your community, including by taking us here on the Megacast every day, Monday through Friday, live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Also, go to our ICE page, civiccentertv.com/ICE, for updates on the impending winter storm. You're going to want to stick to that page, bookmark it, go back to it regularly throughout the day. As things change, we will update that page and help to keep you informed, including links to resources you can also use in addition to our website in order to keep yourself up to date and hopefully keep yourself safe during today's winter storm, with the winter storm warning in effect beginning at 1 p.m. this afternoon and running through 4 a.m. on Saturday. Let's get away from the weather for a moment here and talk about something that maybe is equally as frustrating and tragic in your eyes, the markets and the economy. Joining us now for our weekly market talk on the Megacast is the assistant professor of management at Oakland University's School of Business Administration. Michael Greiner joins us as he does each and every week now on the Megacast. Michael, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for accommodating my schedule this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Always glad to have you on with us as we're talking about the economy and one of the big impacts on the U.S. economy and therefore on the Michigan economy in the past year and some change has been Russia's invasion and the continuing war with Ukraine. As we're a year out from when that conflict turned hot and became a full-fledged war between Russia and Ukraine, just how much of an impact has that had on the U.S. economy?
Well, it's had a huge impact on the U.S. economy and truly the global economy. Ironically, in some respects, it's actually benefited the U.S. economy. I mean, there are some things that have been very positive for us that have come from it. For example, we have been able to increase our oil exports and gas exports to Europe. And the United States now is actually the largest exporter of energy in the world. And we are a net exporter by a pretty substantial margin. And that has to do a lot with the fact that Europe has basically shifted over from importing oil and gas from Russia over to importing it from the United States. So that's been a positive development for the United States here. It also has led to increases in cybersecurity, which, of course, we're all concerned about the potential for different entities to be able to break into our computer infrastructure, our internet infrastructure, and disrupt things as important as energy, which certainly here in Michigan we're well aware of the impact that that can have after the storms last week. But as a result of this invasion, literally our cybersecurity awareness and protection has dramatically increased around the globe. And finally, what's more is, you hate to put it this way, but war is inevitably a generator of income and jobs in some ways. Yes, within Ukraine, it's obviously been incredibly destructive, and their economy has declined by, I think, about 35%. But here in the United States, obviously, what we're doing now is we're spending more money to build weapons that are able to go and replace the ones that are being used up in Ukraine at a very fast rate. Ironically, that's part of the reason why Russia's economy has done relatively well compared to what many people expected. And it's been the big increase in spending on the war effort by the Russian government. Ironically, the Russian government is in kind of a tough spot when it comes to that because of the sanctions that the United States has imposed upon it. They don't have access to about $300 billion of reserves that they had basically piled up in the Federal Reserve and in other central banks in the West. And they've also defaulted on their bonds, which means that they're pretty much unable to go to the world to borrow the money. At this point, they're relying on some gold reserves they have, as well as some money that they have in the Chinese yuan, which they've been able to reserve. But the truth of the matter is, they're kind of in a tough spot because they actually have, at this point, a larger budget deficit by far than the United States has. And unlike the United States, they're unable to go to the global markets to finance that. So while it feels like the Russian economy is doing better than some might have thought, a lot of that is borne up by military spending. And similarly, you're seeing also increases in military spending in Western Europe as well. So, for example, in Germany and in the UK and in France, they're talking about spending more on the militaries, which, again, that's also something that pumps money into the economy. So the irony is, although there have been certainly some hardships that have been felt around the world, for the United States itself, the war in Ukraine has actually been, to some respects, an economic positive.
And as we talk about the positives in the economy, the overarching negative has been inflation, and it's really had quite a lot of staying power, even though it's been reduced over time. It's not quite having as major of an impact as it had 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago. But it's still continuing to have an impact, and as the Federal Reserve continues its response to that, raising interest rates, albeit at a slower rate, how much of that staying power is really continuing to be problematic in our U.S. economy, and that therefore trickling down, and we're seeing those prices still remain relatively high here in Michigan?
Yeah, you're right. And actually, we received some pretty discouraging news last Friday, where the personal consumption expenditures index, that number was released and actually showed a slight increase from the month before. And that's not something that we want to see. Frankly, it was something that we were concerned about. And I think we talked about probably last week on the show, where we'd had some very strong employment numbers. And it appears that especially the place that you're seeing the strength of the jobs market is in the services industry, where obviously you end up having higher costs of labor because a lot of what you're providing in the service industries is the labor itself. There's no goods that are being turned into something else. So the impact of increases in labor costs there are very strong. And it appears then that this increase in costs in the services sector then is boiling over into the rest of the economy. And that is really slowing down the efforts to fight inflation. Now, what does this mean as far as the Fed is concerned? You're right about the fact that they've been slowing down on their increases on interest rates. And part of the reason they've been slowing it down is the places that interest rates have the biggest impact, things like the housing market, especially, but also for vehicles and for investments by businesses, especially the housing market. That industry is basically in a severe recession right now. And you can see that in housing starts, you can see that in new home sales, you can see that in used home sales. And that's largely because of the fact that interest rates on mortgages mortgages as a result of interest rates generally being high. Interest rates on mortgages then are very high. So people can't afford to kind of buy the kind of house that they at one point were able to. So there was a sense that the increases in the interest rate were starting to have effect. But if the shift in inflation then is going over to the services sector, unfortunately, it probably means that more is going to have to be done. So unless we see some change with some new figures in the next couple weeks, I would not be surprised if at their next meeting on March 15th and 16th, we actually see the Fed increase the rate by which they're increasing the interest rates. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a 0.5% increase. And unless things get better, I'm sure that they'll be talking about the potential of an even bigger increase like we'd seen in the past.
And we're not seeing inflation, therefore, run these prices up for goods and for services.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks for accommodating my schedule this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Always glad to have you on with us as 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago. But it's still continuing to have an impact. And as the Federal Reserve continues its response to that, raising interest rates, albeit at a slower rate, how much of that staying power is really continuing to be problematic in our U.S. economy, and that therefore trickling down, and we're seeing those prices still remain relatively high here in Michigan?
Yeah, you're right. And actually, we received some pretty discouraging news last Friday, where the personal consumption expenditures index, that number was released and actually showed a slight increase from the month before. And that's not something that we want to see. Frankly, it was something that we were concerned about. And I think we talked about probably last week on the show, where we'd had some very strong employment numbers. And it appears that especially the place that you're seeing the strength of the jobs market is in the services industry, where obviously you end up having higher costs of labor because a lot of what you're providing in the service industries is the labor itself. There's no goods that are being turned into something else. So the impact of increases in labor costs there are very strong. And it appears then that this increase in costs in the services sector then is boiling over into the rest of the economy. And that is really slowing down the efforts to fight inflation. Now, what does this mean as far as the Fed is concerned? You're right about the fact that they've been slowing down on their increases on interest rates. And part of the reason they've been slowing it down is the places that interest rates have the biggest impact, things like the housing market, especially, but also for vehicles and for investments by businesses, especially the housing market. That industry is basically in a severe recession right now. And you can see that in housing starts, you can see that in new home sales, you can see that in used home sales. And that's largely because of the fact that interest rates on mortgages, as a result of interest rates generally being high, interest rates on mortgages then are very high. So people can't afford to kind of buy the kind of house that they at one point were able to. So there was a sense that the increases in the interest rate were starting to have effect. But if the shift in inflation then is going over to the services sector, unfortunately, it probably means that more is going to have to be done. So unless we see some change with some new figures in the next couple weeks, I would not be surprised if at their next meeting on March 15th and 16th, we actually see the Fed increase the rate by which they're increasing the interest rates. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a 0.5% increase. And unless things get better, I'm sure that they'll be talking about the potential of an even bigger increase like we'd seen in the past.
And we're not seeing inflation, therefore, run these prices up for goods and for services so significantly higher as we'd seen initially as this was hitting a little bit under a year ago. And these strategies in some cases have been working, but what are those contributing factors that really continue to push inflation to be at the level of power it still is at over our economy? Is it the job market? Is it the fact that those that would typically be working at this time are not filling those jobs, or those dynamics between prospective employers and those employees that are looking for jobs, and really those employees, because there's so many jobs to fill, having an upper hand? What are the contributing factors that still make inflation so powerful?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tyler. And really, this has been the strangest period economically. And I think that for years, economists are going to be looking back and studying it because it's been one crisis after another. I mean, obviously, we initially had the COVID recession, and then the bounce back from that recession meant that there was this incredible acceleration in economic activity, which then is really what set off inflation. Then you had the invasion in Ukraine, which drove up the prices of energy in particular, but also on the global markets, there were big increases in the cost of some food items. For example, Ukraine and Russia are major producers of wheat, and Ukraine in particular is a major producer of certain kinds of vegetable oil. And the impact of that has been felt not so much here in the United States, but in many of the third world countries, especially in Africa, the impact has been enormous, where you're starting to deal with major famines in some of these countries. But, that then kind of trickles down into the United States, where certain food products end up being sold for higher than they would have otherwise, because the fact that many of these prices are set on the global market. Then you had a bunch of little things happen. Like, for example, there was the shortage with semiconductors as a result of the kind of the reopening of the economy and how it kind of happened in fits and starts. Well, that unavailable of semiconductors, which of course are the chips that we have in computers, but not just in computers, but also in cars and refrigerators and appliances, just about everything now. And that then led to problems where businesses weren't able to produce the amount of goods that people were demanding. Well, we've pretty much dealt with that. Now, the latest issue that we have that's kind of unbelievable is that people have talked about the increase in prices of eggs. Well, the reason for that is apparently there's a big problem with bird flu. And so they've had to kill off many of the chickens. And as a result of that, there's a shortage in eggs. And it's just one thing after another after another. But I'd say the biggest factor that we've really seen consistently throughout this, and you really put your finger on this, Tyler, is the labor market. And it has to do with the fact that as a result of the COVID recession, you saw a couple things happen. Number one, you saw where immigration slowed pretty dramatically. And we rely here in the United States on a large immigration workforce, essentially supporting our economy. And although that there's been an increase in immigration over the past year or so, that has really not been enough to make up for the loss in immigration that we had as a result of the COVID recession. Then secondly, you've seen a whole group of people who've decided, hey, I don't want to go back to work after this. Especially we're dealing with the aging of the baby boomers now, many of whom are 65 or older. And a lot of them are saying, it's time for me to retire. It's time for me to spend time with my grandchildren. I don't want to spend my time working anymore. And for the most part, this is a generation that's relatively wealthy, that has good savings. And with them now qualifying for Social Security, many of them having paid off their homes, they're in a good position to be able to retire. And so that has led to this shortage of employees, which then leads to this bidding up of the cost for employees for the few remaining ones who are still out there. And again, the impact of that is especially hard felt in the service sector. Now, right now, the latest figures show that there's still about 2 jobs available for every person who's looking for work. So what that means is if employers want to get the people to come for them, it's the old supply and demand curve that we all know from Econ 101. Well, what that curve says is that then the cost of those few remaining employees is going to go up. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the labor market. And if there's any single thing that has probably had the biggest impact on the long-term inflation, that's probably it.
We're joined by Michael Greiner from Oakland University's School of Business Administration, where he is an assistant professor of management. On today's edition of the Megacast, you can keep up to date with all of Oakland University's programs in their School of Business Administration and across the university at oakland.edu. Oakland.edu for more information. And as we're talking about the impact of inflation and combating inflation in particular from the federal government, what, if anything, is being done or can be done at the statewide level to reduce the impact of inflation right here in Michigan? Is there anything that can be done from that secondary level really to combat the overall impact of the national and the world economy on Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough situation. And it has to go back to the fact that really we're part of a federated country in a lot of ways. And in some respects, Michigan actually does better than a lot of states in that regard, because we are a net producer of income for the country, a net producer of revenues. We send more taxes to the federal government than we get back, which some people might view as a negative. But the reality is, because we've got such a strong economy here in Michigan and such a well-educated workforce, a manufacturing-based economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I don't need to hit on all those strengths that we have. When you compare how we're doing compared to, say, some poorer states like, say, Mississippi, or the best example would be Puerto Rico, where they literally have been dealing with a major league recession and inability to pay its bonds, largely because of the fact that, again, their economy is run on dollars, and the value of the dollar is set by the most prosperous parts of the economy. And the more prosperous parts of the economy, of course, are places like here in Michigan, California, New York, places like that. We saw a similar situation, for example, in Europe, where a lot of people like to point to, say, Greece. We all heard about the crisis that Greece had with its with paying its bonds. But it wasn't just Greece. It was also Italy. It was also Spain. It was also Portugal. Although, and for that matter, even I'm blanking out here. Excuse me. I'm just some of the countries, but so many of these countries in Europe end up having problems. Well, again, that's because of the fact that you have some real economic powerhouses, namely Germany and France to a slightly lesser extent, and also Poland for that matter, who've been so successful that they drive up the value of the euro, and that then makes it more difficult for these parts of Europe that are less economically successful to be able to manage their debts. So that's exactly what you see here in the United States. So actually, ironically, here in Michigan, we're doing pretty well overall. There is some talk by the administration in Lansing of trying to do some tax givebacks and that type of thing. That can certainly be helpful, put some money back into people's pockets. But really, overall, we should be feeling very blessed here in Michigan that we do have such a strong economy and such a resilient economy, because it's the type of thing that has put us in better shape, frankly, than a lot of other states in the country.
Well, Michael, we appreciate you joining us and telling us so much about what's going on in our markets and the economy, how that applies back to Michigan. You can always join Michael Greiner and I for our weekly market talk here on the Megacast every Friday at 10:25. Joining us now on the program from one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Shared Detroit platform are Regina Villemure and Christine Wong from Children with Hair Loss. Thank you both for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you on with us. First off, if you could just start by telling us a little bit about the history of your organization, the history of children with hair loss, and some of the services that you provide.
Okay, proud to tell you all those fun things. We actually started the charity a little over 23 years ago, and it was in honor of my niece, who was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia at the tender age of 3. She had 96% cancer, little to no chance to make it. But the good side is she did make it. She's 41 years old and a teacher and a mom of 3. But throughout the years, when we first opened, we really thought that we were going to be the charity that would be out there taking care of the cancer kids. And one of our first recipients actually had alopecia instead of cancer. And it opened a whole new world for us. And my background was hair. I was a cosmetology instructor. I had also owned my own salon, but wanted to do something really important to give back, because through the years of Sarah going through her treatment, which was 5 years at Children's Hospital in Detroit, there absolutely was nothing nice for the children to wear. If they had something, it was synthetic, it was adult, it was not child-friendly in any way, shape, or form. It didn't look like a child, looked pretty hideous, but to them it was hair. And so that was important to them. So our mission became to cover these young heads and heal their hearts. And we've been doing that ever since. They get, most of the time, most all the kids get human hair, unless they're little tiny tots that we get from 18 months up to about 3 to 4 years old. We will give them synthetic to start them out, just because it's a little easier. And we don't know if they're going to take it off and throw it in the floor or if they're actually going to wear it.
And so, please continue.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, and so for those that are coming to your organization, how do you usually get in contact with these families, with these individuals who may be in need of some of these wigs or these synthetic wigs for their kids who are going through either a bout with cancer or with other conditions like alopecia?
Yes. It's actually through social media, which is absolutely huge, as we all know. The social workers at the hospital working with them year after year, day after day, month after month. They know the quality of what we give their children, the quality of life we're giving back to their children and making a true difference for them so that they can not focus on the hair loss. They can focus on going forward and just being confident in what they do on a daily basis. And we do probably 99% of our children are getting human hair, and no family ever pays. We go out and raise the money so that these children don't pay. And beside me, you'll see this fun little poster that we did. We finished the year with 620 children last year. Our new map will be out very soon because we cover the kids all across the United States, which will have a heart in every state. And I'm very proud to tell you, we touched every state in the United States again last year. And it'll give a number saying how many children we took care of in each individual state.
This is amazing work that's being done. It's being done right here in Michigan to help people, not only in Michigan, but as Regina said, throughout the entire United States. And Christine, to go to you for a moment here, if people would like to get involved, there's a number of different ways that people can help your organization, including donating their own hair. How can people get involved?
Yeah, of course. You can donate your hair. We need at least 8 inches or more. Longer is definitely the need right now. We have so many kids applying that want longer hair. So if you can sacrifice 12 inches or more, that's really where the need is right now. It's a simple process to donate. There's a hair donation form right on our website at childrenwithhairloss.org, which is the same place that our kids apply for hair. So you can see the process is very simple for them to be able to apply for hair when you go on to look for ways to help. So you can see what we do. You can host a small fundraiser at your business, salon, school. You can do a heart sale, get in touch with us. We can mail out a package to you to do a simple heart sale. Every penny counts. So any way you can help is appreciated and is helpful to the kids.
And then Regina, you had mentioned earlier that you had in the past you've had your own salon. Are you doing haircuts too at your organization or providing these for people?
No, we do not. There is a salon downstairs from Children with Hair Loss. But they volunteer to help the charity, so they do charge for a haircut because they have to make an income to be able to volunteer for the kids. And that's most of the case for most of the salons anymore. There's very few that you could ever find that would actually do a free haircut anymore. They can't afford to. And especially getting through COVID and getting back to an economic state where they can all help us.
Yeah,
and we need them.
Yeah, but nonetheless, they are helping in their own way. They are right there below you in your building, and even if you go to their salon or go to another, and you're telling them that you're donating this hair, a lot of these salons will be very helpful in helping you and helping you make sure that that's done in a way that's going to be as conducive as possible to turning this hair of yours into someone else's, into a wig very soon. And just, Christine, to go back to you, what kind of is the process of that, to collect this hair and then ultimately bring it to a point where it's turned into a wig that looks like anybody else's haircut for these kids?
Yeah, so our goal here is always to provide for our children that need a wig immediately. So we actually have wigs ready and available as soon as they apply, so we can ship something out in as little as a week or two. Sometimes it's the day of, if they're really lucky, if we have what they need and we're ready to go that day. We know how important it is for kids to receive the hair that they're looking for, so they can continue their healing process if they're going through treatments, or they can continue to go to school if they're uncomfortable without hair. They can get back to feeling like themselves right away. So we feel it's really important to have those here in stock, ready, available for them. So our process here of collecting hair and sending it off to our manufacturer and allowing them to choose what's best to make the wigs out of, it can take anywhere from 3 months to a year for us to have wigs made. And through COVID, it took 1.5 to 2 years to have some of those made. They're still coming in from our orders 2 years ago because the process takes so long to have those handmade. So we don't order specifically for each child as they apply. The process would take too long and they'd be without hair for too long. So we have the hair sorted by length and shipped off as soon as we can, so that we're always reordering and restocking our wigs. It's like stocking shoes here. You need every size, every color, every fit for the kids so we can replace what they've lost. Different caps.
Yeah.
So.
And we've got about 90 seconds left, so I do want to go back to this. You mentioned that a lot of the people that you do get in contact with for these services are through social media. But if people want to apply for their kids for a wig, how can they go about doing that?
Childrenwithhairloss.org, right on our website. It's a simple hair request process that they do on there. We need a doctor's letter stating their hair loss condition. We need a proof of age, whether it be birth certificate, driver's license, or simply having the doctor verify that, and the application. So we know where to ship it. We need a few pictures of the hair that they lost so we can match them up to what they lost, so we can give them back something that looks and feels like themselves again. So we keep it really simple. We don't want to stress the parents out. We know that they already have a lot on their plates, so we keep it as easy as we possibly can.
And then, Regina, just a minute left before we'll need to wrap things up for today. Anything else that we haven't mentioned that you would like our audience to know about children with hair loss?
We have the greatest volunteers ever. It's the greatest home team that you could ever imagine that make all this possible. Us giving is the easy part. It's everything else that goes along behind it, behind the scenes, that makes it possible to happen and to be able to give. And these volunteers come in week after week. You would think they're permanent employees here. And most of them are seniors who are just giving back and giving their time. And we're so appreciative for them and the team that we have, because without them, we could never do what we do here at Children with Hair Loss. And giving is number one, and just changing these children's lives. And like Christine said, having the pieces available, and there's different caps for different reasons. And we've designed specific for the alopecia. And a bully can't come into school and pull their hair off because of the just that we have for them. So we're giving the kids back confidence, and that's really what it's about. They're our future, and we need to take good care of them so that they can take care of us.
That's such a great point, and really sums up everything you're doing there at Children with Hair Loss. Thank you both for being with us today, Regina and Christine.
Thank you for having us.
Having us. We appreciate it.
Childrenwithhairloss.org is their website. You can also go to sharedetroit.org and explore Children with Hair Loss, as well as over 300 charities and nonprofits right here in the Metro Detroit area. That is our show for today. Before we go, again, inclement weather is coming our way. A winter storm going to be approaching our area very soon. CivicCenterTV.com/ice for updated information. We just got an update from the West Bloomfield School District that they will be canceling all after school and evening activities, including sports today, in order to keep their families safe. The district basketball game has been moved up to 3 p.m. That will still occur. The high school girls district basketball game will happen at 3 o'clock instead of in the evening today, but all other activities including sports after school today are canceled in the West Bloomfield School District. Again, CivicCenterTV.com/ice for updated information. That is going to do it for our show today. And until we see you next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you soon.